My name is Janene Hasan, and I'm a STEM specialist at Southwark Elementary School. I also went to Richmond Elementary. So I was a student in Philadelphia, and now I'm a teacher in Philadelphia. When I began my program at Southwark 5 years ago, I made a promise to myself and to my students. I had no idea that that promise would lead me here today. The Toxic Schools article came out in the Inquirer, and I read it, and I just couldn't believe it. And I saw in my classroom that there was dust in my classroom, and I never really gave it a thought before. But then I really saw that dust, and I started questioning what was in the dust in my classroom. And I got one of those little lead sticks, and I checked for lead paint, and it just turned pink right away. It was full of lead. And I did not know that I was storing materials, hands-on materials in the STEM program, there where the children were touching the materials. Their books were covered in lead dust. And at the same time, coincidentally, I took my son to the doctor for his one-year checkup, which includes a lead test. And his lead check came back with exposure to lead. So my one-year-old, I'm questioning where he was exposed to lead, but I was pregnant in that classroom, not knowing I was exposing my unborn child to lead. I was in that classroom pumping for my child, and then I would go home and nurse him in my work clothes. So I really questioned where he was exposed to lead, and it's possible it could have come from my classroom. So from that moment, I started teaching in my classroom and treating it as a hazardous place. I would go home and before I went home, I would change my clothes so that I wouldn't bring any lead home to my young child. But it really tore me up knowing that I had unwittingly exposed kindergartners, first graders, all of my students to lead dust. No one told me that that should be a concern. We talk about benchmarks, we talk about PSSAs. No one told me that I should be worried that I'm giving my children neurotoxins. Sorry, in our schools, lead dust is only one hazard, and there are floods, there are leaks, there are unbearably hot and cold classrooms, there's rodents, asbestos. This has been happening for far too long. So I promised that I would give my students every opportunity that any suburban school would have, and I guarantee that many suburban schools do not even have to worry about this when they're teaching. Southwark, we feel is privileged. Last summer we were stabilized for our lead and paint and plaster project. So it has been, much better this year. But I thought about it, and we should really feel like we are privileged. That's a basic human right to not be poisoned by your school. So Southwark is here today because we are enjoying a school that no longer has lead dust in it, but we want the best for everybody. And we want every school to have that same privilege or basic human right. And it's time that the state did their part. I guarantee that if this happened in a suburban school, we would not be here today and be taken care of. This is a human rights issue. It's a racial justice issue, and I'm here to fight for my students and for every student in Philadelphia. This is an emergency. Thank you.